What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Recording. I hope you're having a wonderful day. If you are, well, there's one way to show it, and that is by crushing that thumbs up button below the video. It helps new people find the channel, and it stokes my ever delicate ego. Now, I want to have a little bit of fun today. Now, it's not, if you're not new to the channel, you know that I have a lot of fun. In fact, I've made basically a career out of making fun of games journalists. So much so I have coined the phrase games journalists, which if you're not from the United States, if you use a men's room, there are, instead of toilets for men, there are stand-up things that you pee into. They are called urinals. I think it's fitting. Now, there is no shortage of terrible, fake, woke journalism, but it's a little less often that I get to cover something that is just so egregiously, hilariously incorrect just on the actual fact basis. So I want to take a minute to share just how pathetic and embarrassing this Gamespot article is about the new PlayStation 5. Now, hold on to your hats, kiddies, because this is hilarious. Now, you don't have to be a crazy in-depth knowledge computer whiz or someone who builds PCs to understand how hilarious the incorrect reporting is here. And it's also, I think, fair to differentiate between a literal video game outlet and the average layman not knowing the difference between like an SSD and an SD, or the types of hard drives, or how heat is generated inside of computers, or what the norms are, what the latest and greatest is for computing technology. I think it is an absolute bare minimum requirement for a website like GameSpot or IGN or Kotaku or Polygon to at minimum understand what's going on with the bare level of tech knowledge. And if you're going to have writers that don't know that, you better dang well have an editor that's going to go in there and correct it. The fact that this article was ever written by the person that it was is hilarious. The fact that GameSpot editors published it is even more hilarious. But let's get into this wonderful article so we can all have a laugh. The PS5 will use solid state drive. Here's why that's important. Faster load times, for one. Well, that's kind of the only reason it's important. I think it's by far the, if you want to take the 80-20, meaning what is the benefit that's, the smallest thing that's going to provide the biggest benefit, well, it's going to be the SSD, which by the time the PS5 comes out isn't exactly groundbreaking when you compare it to PC technology, but that's neither here nor there. I love my console gamers and I love PC gamers. I do both. Both have their advantages. I don't like to pick a side there in particular. So Sony, and this article is written by, who's this written by? Steve Watts. Okay. All right, Steve, let's see what you know. Sony has started to detail its plans of next-gen PlayStation, which isn't technically named yet, but will likely be the PlayStation 5. One of the biggest changes the company is making is the system's storage solution, which is going from standard optical hard drive. What? Okay, there's no such thing, as far as I know, as a optical hard drive. We're not even 2 sentences in, and you're using a completely incorrect term. Now, you just might mean a standard hard drive or HDD, but it isn't an optical hard drive. To a customized solid state drive. What's customized about it? Here's the difference. It's going from a standard read-write hard drive to a solid-state drive. There's nothing customized about the solid-state drive, first of all, and there's no such thing as an optical hard drive that I know of. Next paragraph. SSDs are common in laptops and mobile phones. Record scratch. As far as I know, solid-state drives are not in your cell phone. They use SD cards. Now, you could argue that the author meant, well, an SD card is a form of solid-state memory, but given the previous mistake in this article, I'm going to go ahead and assume they have no idea what kind of hard drives are actually inside of cell phones. So we have 3 sentences in, and more of it's completely wrong than correct. But it's less often used in hardware that remains in one place like a desktop computer or a video game console. What? People have been using SSDs as their primary boot drives and desktop computers for what? Almost 10 years now. The computer I'm on now obviously has an SSD. It's a ultra high-end gaming rig. Brought to you by Origin, who did not sponsor, and I paid full price. My custom build on my other set for Midwest Sleep, by the way, it's more of my politically based channel. So if you want to subscribe to that, I'll leave it pinned in the comment down below. That computer has a solid-state hard drive. Most people have been using SSDs for their primary boot drive in desktop computers as long as they've had a choice to. But anyway, I digress. I hope you're having a good laugh. Less often on one place like a video game console. Optical hard drive. By the way, you can have an SSD in your PlayStation 4 Pro as well. But nonetheless, I digress. Optical hard drives have been used throughout console history, but SSDs offer a few key advantages. Again, optical hard drives. I don't think that's how they work. The difference is similar to this between the portable storage devices like CD versus thumb drives. And there's good reason that one has all but replaced the other for most people. Okay, well, tell us why. Tell us why everyone likes SSDs more than CDs. Now, I can't really tell if this games journalist is trying to say that they've moved away from the disc, or if they're just, I don't know where they came up with optical hard drive. But when we get to it, we're going to have a lot of fun reading some of the comments, of course. The major advantages, as detailed in the reveal interview, comes as load time. Yes, correct. You got that. You also read that in the Forbes article. Hardware architect Mark Cerny used Marvel Spider-Man as an example. Fast-traveling load screens took 15 seconds on the PS4 Pro, but less than 1 second on the dev kit of the PS5. Given that new hardware will be backwards compatible with older games, that means your load times will likely be reduced across the board when you upgrade. This is great news. Now, they continue. Faster loading can also mean faster rendering. Okay. So games known for speed can push more architecture and textures at a faster rate. Spider-Man was used as an example here too, as the camera was sped up to show how the city would render more quickly. Okay, good. Again, this is also ripped from somebody else's. This is basically word for word out of the original release in, I think it was Forbes. This is not GameSpot's original reporting. This much is basically lifted from the reveal article, which was either, gosh, I wanna properly source it, because they're only linking to themselves, which is disingenuous, because I think the original article was on, let's see, Wired. Yes. So all of this information is on wired.com. So they're basically they're barely changing any of it. But that's neither here nor there. That's what I've come to expect. And to be honest, I do a lot of that too. I read articles. I provide commentary. So they're doing the text version of that. I guess you could make the argument. But let's continue. The lack of moving parts in solid state drive also generally means less intense need for cooling. What? Oh my God. First of all, when you're doing heavy data reads on an SSD, in many cases it will run hotter than a standard hard drive. But you're also talking about the level of heat produced from the hard drive is nothing compared to what your GPU and CPU are going to be generating inside of the game console. So okay, you could maybe make an argument that SSDs provide more room inside, thus more airflow. I guess you could make that argument, but I don't think making the argument that SSDs just run cooler and therefore it's a heating advantage, that's not true at all. When you're doing high intense data transfers, SSDs heat up, first of all. Second of all, like I said, when you're doing intense graphics, your CPU and your GPU inside that box are going to be what generate most of the heat, I'm going to guess. Now, if I'm wrong about that, I'd be very surprised, but it's entirely possible. Current console owners know that particularly hardware-intense parts of games can result in fans spinning at high speed, making for a distracting whirring sound. The PS5 is still a long way off, and we haven't seen it in action, but it's likely the SSD will require less cooling and therefore reduce fan noise. What? What? No. First of all, fan noise isn't necessarily a result of more heat, because you can have high-end super quiet fans like I have in this tower. The fans are running on like ultra high RPMs at all times basically, and I can never hear it. My other tower built over there is built on a quiet case technology by Next, I think. I can never hear the fans running even when it's at high speed RPMs. That's because they're high quality fans with good quality bearings, and they are produced to be quiet. So fan noise is not necessarily a direct outcome of more heat. It's usually a result of crappy fans. But let's take a look at some of the article or the comments here, because I'm sure they're absolute gold. Oh, there's only 21. Geez, hardly anybody must go to GameSpot. I'll imagine my shock, I suppose.
Yes, and I've dusted off.
Oh, all right. Well, this is who is doing your reporting. Okay. Oh, that's Steve Watts. Okay, well, you know, we'll just leave that one alone. Let's see. Once you go SSD, oh my God. You don't want to go back to hard drive. SSD on computer, when turning the computer on, feels like a game console. What? What the heck is an optical hard drive? Was running the same thing. Is he confusing a regular hard drive with a CD-ROM or Blu-ray drives, which are called optical disc drives? I was wondering, but when Sony slipped the BDR drive into a PS4, without anybody noticing. However, those are called optical disc drives. You use optics to read a disc. That's how it's reading the CD, right? There are so many erroneous statements in this article. I'm wondering if anyone checks these articles before publication. It's like the guy that just got into tech got a hold of the publish it button. You're making newcomers stupid. SSD is good for gaming. Theirs was very expensive. Okay. Where do you get your information? I've been installing SSDs in desktops for years. That's where they were first used. SSDs are common in laptops and mobile phones. Phones don't use SSDs, but SDs. They are similar, but not the same as SSDs. Now, I know this is nitpicky, but again, this is an article from Gamespot.com, who gets the most basic details. Now, you could have said that phones use solid state, which is the same thing that you would see in a solid state drive, but that's not what the author said. And I'm not going to accept the author coming back now after they've been exposed to say, well, that's what I meant, because it isn't what you meant. It's not what you wrote. In just 4 paragraphs, you got an enormous amount of things wrong, and this is why everybody laughs. Yeah, less need for cooling. My butt. The SSD in my PS4 Pro didn't do anything in that regard. Same as with the standard PS4 before that. An SSD does run cooler than an HDD. Regardless, it won't help cool all the components massively, but you won't also be adding it for additional heat. I disagree with that. I mean, SSDs can absolutely run hotter than hard drives. And again, a lot of that comes to the quality of the actual drive that's in there. Quote, SSDs are common on laptops and mobile phones. SSD inside of a PC has been a thing for over a decade. This is literally the first device that the SSDs were made for. Maybe do a little bit of fact checking. GameSpot. I mean, it's just, this is the state, this is the absolute state of games journalism, and I wouldn't be doing my service if I didn't hang out with all of you so we could all point our fingers and laugh at the ridiculousness. And by the way, this has now been up for 2 full days with no edits, no retractions, no corrections. They're just dead wrong all the way through. GameSpot, you are an embarrassment. I hope you enjoyed this video, though, and we'll talk to you again real soon.